Solo queuing in Apex Legends is by far the hardest way to play, whether it's in unranked or ranked. But it is also the most rewarding and fun way to play this game, and after thousands of hours of solo queue practice, I have a strong understanding of the keys needed to carry random teammates and win more fights while playing solo. So in today's video, I have another Inside the Mind style video where I'm going to go through 2 Apex gameplays with you guys and give you a look into my thought process and break down basically why I made the decisions I did throughout the whole video. As always, all my gameplays are captured live on my Twitch stream, which is twitch.tv/clarityYT. So if you want to come say what's up and hang out, I stream over there every single day. And finally, I just want to let you guys know I've seen the comments asking for ranked and I got you guys covered. Next season, for season 27, I'm going to be doing a solo to masters challenge, and I'm going to be dropping weekly Inside the Mind episodes of this solo to masters challenge throughout the entire season 27 first split. So the ranked content is coming and it'll be starting next week when season 27 drops. I think the biggest thing that I really want to cover in this video is going to be how to play your life correctly as a solo. Now, a lot of times as a solo, one of the biggest problems I see is that people get a little bit too over-aggressive and insert themselves a little bit too deep into fights where they can't get out of it because you can't expect help from your teammates when you're solo queuing. You have to anticipate and have the mindset that your random teammates are not going to do very much. If you have that mindset, it's going to set you up way more for success. Now right here, I get a little bit deep. I have a hemlock. I miss some shots and get beamed. So I'm instantly going to use Wraith's Q to back up. Now, this is exactly that type of situation where we're going to play our life right here. Instead of trying to ego challenge that, I know my one teammate already went down. I'm expecting my other teammate to not help much. I need to just get out of that situation and completely hit the reset button here. Pop some heals. And I also want to get close to the zip building because another thing that you really want to focus on as a solo is having certain spots that you're really comfortable fighting. And for me, zipline buildings, and for a lot of solo Wraith players, zipline buildings are that comfort spot. So I always want to try and bring the fight to this zip building if I can. Now, unfortunately, they don't chase into me. I wanted them to kind of chase me there to that zip building. So we're going to go ahead and push up again. Now, I get a nice little off angle and deal some nice damage to open it up, and hitting some nice hemlock shots, we're able to actually get 2 knocks right here. So I go ahead and I'm trying to kind of use these little pieces of cover as I'm working up so that if somebody pops out, I have some cover. Now, unfortunately, this bloodhound caught me way off guard ratting in that corner, as you can see my face right there. But luckily, we get him 1 HP with some nice shots. Teammate cleans it up, and we get a quick revive. Now, right there, as you kind of saw, that reset button that we hit during the middle of the fight, which is a little bit of a selfish play, right? Because maybe your teammates are pushed too far up and they don't have a Wraith queue, but that is not something you can be concerned with as a solo queue player. And this genuinely does go for unranked or ranked. You have to focus on taking care of playing your life first and worry about your teammates second. Now, if I maybe had a portal, I could have maybe dropped a portal to give them a way out as well. But I didn't have my portal. I had to get out of that situation or I probably was going to go down. So we just have to play our life and hit the reset. And because we do that, we're able to re-enter the fight properly and start off the game with 2 nice eliminations. Now, we go ahead, and at this point, we're just kind of looking for some action, and I end up padding right on top of somebody on accident. Now, luckily, we do have this Wraith ultimate, and this is a great example of why and how you're going to want to use Wraith's ultimate. I try to kind of go for a little bit of a trick play right there so that if they hit the octane pad, it would send them flying into my ultimate, but it doesn't really work. But I still get to a nice head glitch on this rock so that if they do take the pad, I could try to beam him out of the sky like we do right there. And we hit a quick reposition. This is super important because his teammate is looking at that rock where I used to be, and that quick reposition catches him completely off guard and allows me to just get some free damage without taking any in return because he's confused. Now, another team ends up coming in off those bounce pads, which again catches us off guard, so we instantly get a piece of cover using this rock to deal some damage with the safety of being able to duck behind it right away. And we hit a really nice R99 spray right there. Now, I'm quickly going to try to get some ammo, and I'm playing around these boxes purposefully. That's so that if I take damage, I can instantly go ahead and grab an armor swap off of all these boxes. And I actually think as a solo player, that's something you really should be focusing on a lot more than most people do, is playing around armor swaps. If you get a kill or 2 in an area and another team tries to push you, you might even be able to use your Wraith portal or a Wraith Q to draw them into fighting in an area where you already know there's boxes on the ground. because again, remember, we're going in with the mindset we're getting no help from our teammates. So being able to hit an armor swap is a great way to be more self-sufficient. Now another team ends up showing up and I hit a nice R99 spray. Now I want to quickly drop down, use the Mastiff to get the knock, and instantly get out of there with my Q. We go ahead and play that corner, looking for another bit of damage onto the Revenant. Now, I hear a lifeline res start to go off, and this instantly changes the fight completely. You can see me back off. Now that I know that they have a lifeline, I have to play this fight completely different because they can get revives off without having to stick them, and that makes life as a solo player much harder. So I go ahead and reposition to the roof and look to play this a little bit more strategic and slow. I want to try to focus the lifeline if I can and knock her first. Now, we're able to do just that. We also use a little bit of movement. I kind of mess up a little fatigue wall bounce is what I was going for there, and I mess that up a little bit, but it ends up working out. We get the lifeline first so they can't res, and then clean up the Wraith, and another team ends up coming in. So I go ahead and play this nice little kind of head glitch high ground, and after getting a good amount of damage, I drop down to finish out that kill, which I probably didn't have to do. I think that was actually a bad play, but regardless, we drop down, we take some damage from their teammate, so we go ahead and use our Wraith Q, which is kind of our bailout button, to go ahead and get back up the zipline. Again, leaning towards the zipline to try to draw them into it, but they're just fighting out in the street here. My teammates are preoccupying them. Make sure to also, as a solo player, try to use your teammates to your advantage. I see my teammates are preoccupying this enemy caustic, so what I can do, go ahead and get an angle off to the side and clean up that kill while he's looking at my teammate. Now, something else I want to talk about, this is a Wraith-specific tip, but honestly, with all Legends, this does apply to some extent, is use your Wraith Q before it's like the absolute last second. Now, let's not talk about this aim right here on this guy that was knocked on the ground. Not my finest work. But what I was saying about the Wraith Q is that I see so many people that want to save their Wraith Q until the very last second. When they're on 1 HP, they're trying to get it popped so that they can reposition. And don't get me wrong, I do this on accident sometimes as well, or sometimes you just take way more damage than you're expecting, and then you're already kind of super low when you go to pop it. But for the most part, try to have the mindset of popping your Wraith Q before you take the damage that would cause you to need to back up. So let's say a team is kind of pushing up on top of me, and I get hit for like 25 damage. That's when I want to pop my Wraith Q before they all jump on top of me and collapse on top of me to create that space between us, so that when they then try to chase me through that open space I created, I'm able to, instead of having to pop a bat, pop a med kit, I'm able to actually just pull out my weapon and deal some big damage while they're in the open chasing. That is like the most prime time to deal damage as a solo player, is when you create space, you draw them into the open chasing you, and you go ahead and you can deal damage while they're trying to chase. And that is one of the keys to 1v3ing that I've talked about a lot. But in order to do that, like I was saying, you have to make sure you're popping your Wraith Q or your Octane Pad or your Ash Ultimate, whatever it may be. You have to use it a little bit earlier than I think most people do and create that space before you take damage, not when you're already low. Again, I'm not perfect at it by any means, but definitely something to try and focus on in your next play session and see if that really helps you take less damage and win more fights. Now, we hear two teams fighting each other here, and we're going to look to get a little third party going. Now, I'm not exactly sure where these two teams are, and I go ahead and take some decent damage from the rooftop in the middle of Neon Square. So I go ahead, drop down, pop a quick heal, and I'm going to try to cross and get over to this smaller zipline building. Now, this is a point I brought up a little bit earlier, and that's fighting in areas that you're comfortable fighting in. Now, that main building is not very ideal for fighting for my playstyle. This smaller zipline building is way more effective for me because I can switch floors quickly using my zipline tech. Now, I go ahead, I get a nice couple Mastiff shots off on somebody on the second floor, but I can't overcommit to anything. There's Watson fences everywhere. And as you can see, something I do on the ziplines for anybody trying to learn zipline tech is whenever I shoot, I then attach and detach to the zipline to create a little bit of a sidestep while on the zipline. Now, we go ahead and hit a really nice Mastiff into an R9 spray right there on the Ash to get that knock on the staircase. And I can't push that Watson from the main way because of the fence in the way, so I hit a nice mantle jump to reposition to an angle that the Watson wasn't expecting. Now, I totally understand if you're like, look, I can't do all that zipline tech. That's no problem at all. The mantle jump allows me to make that play a little bit quicker, but You don't have to know how to mantle jump to make that play. I could have just went ahead and taken the zipline all the way to the roof and dropped down behind the Wattson just like I did. It just would have been a little bit slower, but that is no problem at all. The play still would have worked hands down. Now, we hear a team in this building behind us, and I end up getting shot from way deep by a Vantage using her ultimate and go down here. Now, this was pretty unfortunate. It's kind of impossible to predict that a Vantage could snipe you from that deep, especially with her hitting a double body shot and knocking me basically instantly while I'm looking the other way. Luckily, W teammate comes in with a big res. I use a mantle jump again to reposition here. Again, the movement tech isn't needed. It's the core fundamental idea of, okay, we're in a bad position. There's two teams collapsing most likely. I want to get out of this building and into the next building. So we go ahead and using the reposition, start to pop some heals, hit a bit of a reset. If somebody pushes into us, we're in a great position to hold it. So I'm kind of holding for that. And this is where things get a little bit tricky. I want to re-enter this fight, but I don't know how many teams are in this building. My teammate goes down. There's pathy zip lines going up. It's just chaos. So I'm kind of playing a weird little spot here. Unfortunately, the Rampart notices me. No big deal, though. We drop down, pop a nice shield cell, and we're going to get back to full health. Now, I'm still in my head right now trying to figure out how can I time this to get back in this fight. And right here, the Pathy ends up soaring on top of me. Unfortunately, my Massive hits for 30 twice there, and I do get shot from the side. Now, I was trying to use that green wall to my right to prevent the angle from up top being able to hit me while I took the 1v1 on the Pathfinder, but I pushed too much off from the side of the wall, giving the rooftop an angle on me. And that's how small the margin for error is when playing as a solo in Apex. So if you're trying to improve and you're trying to follow the things I'm saying in these videos, do not get upset if you mess up. Do not get upset if you die. It is absolutely okay. It happens all the time. If you ever stop by my stream, I lose so many games every single day. The key is genuinely to just try and figure out the mistake you made, learn from it, and take that with you into the next one. If you do that over and over, you will stack so much improvement over time. Now, we're going to hop right here into this second game. We get a nice first elimination. We land on the shotgun arsenal, get a PK and a Mosey, get the upgraded bolt, and we go ahead and get a nice first elim onto the Bloodhound. Now, knowing that I have a PK, I know I have the best weapon in the game off drop. I'm going to look to be pretty aggressive here, and this building is really good for that. Now we catch this enemy off guard and hit a nice little alternator spray right there, and then we get shot at from up top. A little bit of an ambitious challenge right there out of me. But once I realized that there was multiple, I go ahead and pop my Wraith Q and reposition back in the building. Now we see somebody outside to the side, so again, I'm trying to use the alternator to deal some good damage. Not the best weapon from this range, but we're able to actually get the knock and push up off that. Now at this point, I know that there is still a team up top and possibly another team or two behind us. We don't have a full read on the situation. I'm trying to get a little bit of loot. We start taking some damage. They have some long-range weapons up top. So we go ahead and duck behind this cover, trying to get some heals. When I hear somebody kind of pushing down on top of me, I'm not sure if that's the team from up top or another team. So I go ahead and create a ton of space right here. This is another example of playing your life. It's a little bit boring. Trust me, I don't like having to create that much space and then slowly work back into a fight. I like to just stay in the fight as much as I can. But in that situation, I had no idea. Was it 1, 2, 3, 2 teams? I have no idea. So I just have to pop my Wraith Q, create a ton of space so that if a full team is pushing me, they just slide right down the hill into me and I'm playing a nice doorway. Now, I work back up this hill and look to try to catch these guys off guard. And I see that all three are right on top of each other. A little bit of hand holding going on. And so again, we're going to do basically the exact same play, using this hill to create a ton of space. I was honestly shocked that in this situation, they didn't push up on top of me, because as a full team of 3, you get a little bit of initial damage on a solo. If you're in that position, I'm pushing the solo 10 out of 10 times down the hill. But again, they're a very passive team. We'll keep that in the back of our mind because they're not looking to push me at any cost. And again, we're going to push back up this hill nice and slow while gaining a little bit of Evo. And again, something I've talked about in my other Inside the Mine videos is how important patience is as a solo player. We're in a situation now where our one teammate has left, our other teammate is down, and so I'm completely solo at this point. You really do have to be super patient and play it pretty passive. It's a playstyle that I like to call a passive-aggressive playstyle. This is something that people like Faide and aceu have mastered over the years. There really is a lot of trying to manipulate your opponents into positions where they're vulnerable and then take advantage of their mistakes that you force them to make. But it really does take a lot of patience and a lot of perfect timing that will just come from being in these situations and trying to play them the correct way over and over the course of thousands of hours. Now, back into this gameplay specifically, we go ahead, craft our teammate's banner, and get a res on him. And we see that the enemy Pathfinder team that was playing that hill has ziplined up on top of the cage and is now going to be pretty annoying. I was hoping that they would kind of be a little bit aggressive here, maybe drop onto my portal and chase me. But this team has shown a couple times now that they are very passive and they're not going to look to chase. This is definitely going to make our lives a little bit harder because we're not really going to be able to close the gap on them, and we're not going to get to pull them into the open if they're not looking to chase. So the way to beat a team like this is either going to have to be another team comes in and we let them get third-partied and then enter into the fight, or we just have to have a little bit of patience like we're doing right here. Trying to feel them out, see if they'll make a mistake. But if they don't really make a mistake, it's a little bit of a stalemate right now. Now I catch one of their teammates work up on this right side, and I get a little bit of poke damage. Now, my hope here is that if I could land maybe an arc star, get a little bit more damage, we might be able to push up off that and single that teammate out, which if we could get the knock would turn this into a 2v2 and probably cause them to chase us. When I go to do that and close that gap, they end up peeking at me and starting to try to deal some damage, so I hit a little tap strafe over to the side to avoid taking damage. Now, I had no idea in the moment that I had absolutely zero light ammo at this point. It is a bit unfortunate because I feel like that was one of the best openings we've had to get at this passive team that's been kind of driving us crazy. But unfortunately, we are completely out of light ammo, so we have to go ahead, slide down here, and grab some light ammo. And as we're doing this, I'm also realizing in the back of my head that that whole enemy team has grouped up again. So as soon as we shot at their one teammate, they all grouped up and started holding hands again. So I'm definitely realizing that this team is going to be very difficult to deal with. And again, the best way for us to deal with them is going to be the third party. And right on cue, another team ends up coming out of that choke point, dealing some damage and allowing us to get that opening knock we were looking for. And off of that, we're definitely going to try to push up here, take space, and try to pinch this team. And don't get caught in the middle of these two teams, but be on the outside and pinch them in between each other, which we're able to do super nice right there. And we get another knock now onto the lifeline. Now, I'm a little bit aggressive here to get this full elimination, and it's because it is a lifeline. I don't want any chance of her getting back up, because if lifeline gets back up, it makes this fight 10 times harder, because the amount of resets a team can get with a lifeline makes playing against them solo extremely difficult. So we make sure to get that full elimination. And now we're going ahead. We're using a little bit of a side angle here to deal some damage to the Watson. And once we break the fence, we're able to slide in and clean up that team wipe. But instantly, I know that, all right, this was a third-party situation, which means there's another team. I'm pretty sure that they did not go down. And there could be even more teams coming in because you guys know how it is in Apex. When teams hear shots, the whole lobby ends up showing up in the same spot to fight. And that's basically what's happening right here. We get a team from the right that we weren't expecting that starts coming through that choke point. There's also the original third party. And I go for a little bit of a portal play here, trying to throw him up in the air with it. Now, unfortunately, I don't pull the play off effectively. And so we got to instantly back up at this point because otherwise we're kind of caught out in the open. Now, definitely not the most optimal way to play that situation, but sometimes you got to have a little fun with it. We go ahead and drop an evac right here. I want to use this evac to be able to quickly get up onto this high ground. And it'll definitely catch the enemy off guard rather than having to climb, which ends up working perfectly to plan right there as they were trying to get the revive off. And we go ahead and clean up another team. But I still hear shots. I hear my teammate fighting, and he's low health. So I'm going to try to quickly loot and get over to this other side to try to help my teammate as best as I possibly can. Because it seems like I said, the whole lobby has now converged on this area. Now I hear footsteps up in that tunnel above me, so I go ahead and use Wraith Q to back up completely to this cage building. This is kind of what I talked about earlier with the zipline buildings on E District. I know the best spot for me to take on a team of 3 if I have to as a solo is this cage building. So as soon as I hear footsteps, I want to go ahead and try to draw them into chasing me into that building. Now, they don't chase, and so I'm going to go ahead and push back up. And my teammate's Valkyrie ult actually really helps me there, scanning this enemy that was camping in the corner, allowing me to get a really nice peek, catching her off guard and getting the opening knock. Now, I'm hoping in this situation my teammate pushes up on that, which using the minimap, I'm able to see that he is. And so I'm able to play off of that and pinch this enemy Sparrow as my teammate's pushing up from the side. And this is just a really easy play to just converge on him. And we go ahead and end it in a little bit of style right there with the flick shot. And something you noticed during that fight is, again, when I got that initial knock onto the conduit, I went ahead and popped my Wraith Q and completely fell back to the zip building. Now, that might seem like a lot of space created just after getting one knock and only taking 100 damage, especially with overflow. But when you're playing solo like this, you really don't know, is that, you know, a full team of 3? Is there 2 more enemies? And if they just jump right on top of you and you don't create enough space, you're just going to instantly go down with how fast the TTK is right now, especially with the PK meta and enemies being able to deal 108 damage instantly. You really want to be on the safe side of creating space and always try to create a little bit extra space than you think you need to, because it doesn't take that long to re-enter the fight and close the gap again. Now, we go ahead, we get a scan, seeing that there's 2 teams about to fight over here. So I want to try once again to pinch these teams together, and I go ahead and get up on this rock, dealing some nice damage. But right there is an example of what I was saying with the PK. I get hit with 2 hefty shots, dealing almost 200 damage instantly to me, and I get very low very fast. So we go ahead, pop the Wraith Q, and create all this space. Now, we drop down and play that little piece of cover. Not sure what that Octane was doing. A little bit too much movement, not enough aiming. But we go ahead and get the knock and the full limb, getting an armor swap. And with my teammate going down, this is a perfect opportunity to go ahead and use another Wraith ultimate portal. I'm going to use this because it's the best way to create space fast. And again, it's most likely a 1v2, and a 1v2 in the position I was in would probably not go very well for me. So I go ahead and try to bring the fight back to the cage, which is where I'm comfortable fighting. And it's where I'm going to have the best chance to pull off a 1v2. Now, unfortunately, they instantly grabbed his banner and popped a Moby. And so they're going to be a full team of 3 again, and this is going to get a lot harder. But still, the space needed to be created. I needed to play my life. Had I pushed that, like I said, I probably would have went down. But instead, we play our life, we get a full reset. And now with 3 teams up, my mindset is shifting to, okay, we got a full team of 3 there, probably another full team of 3 somewhere. I'm going to try my best to cause these teams to fight each other in third party. So I'm going to start by trying to do a little bit of poke damage here to this team as they're trying to push up on me. And this is going to cause a little bit of chaos and hopefully bait the other team into coming and fighting. Now, again, like I said, I'm going to go right back after starting to poke at them a little bit to the cage, which is the safe spot for me to fight. Now, they instantly pop an evac tower, and I'm aware of their play right here. It's to go ahead and try to take the high ground from me on top of the cage. And so I'm going to try to get onto this roof as fast as I can to push them away from landing up here. Now, in this case, they actually didn't land on the roof, which shocked me. They landed in this choke point where the other team was and started to fight them. Now, this was exactly what I wanted to happen. But when I just start dealing a little bit of damage, for some reason, they instantly all turned and focused on me, dealing a ton of damage, which was pretty unfortunate. And for some reason, I still don't know why, that team in the choke point is not pushing up and being aggressive on these guys. They had them very low. I'm still surprised that they didn't push up in this situation. I'm taking a lot of big damage too. You would think with them seeing that I'm also dealing damage from a different angle, that they would definitely push up knowing the team is low and they're getting shot at from a different angle. But they still are just sitting in that choke point. So now we're in another weird situation where I can't really push this fight. Even though I kind of got them to fight each other, I can't really push. You can see I'm a little bit frustrated because if I go ahead and push either of these teams, I'm instantly going to get collapsed on by the other team, and this game will just end like that. Now, this team decides to be aggressive all of a sudden. They pop Pathy ult. Unfortunately, I missed my PK shot there. I needed to hit that one. And they just decide to send me on top of this roof. So I drop down to this safe spot on the door, go ahead and pop my shield cell, and using overflow, I'm able to get full healed as I'm going ahead and creating space with this Wraith ult. Now, this is perfect. It seems like they're about to fight, and they'll be focused on each other, and I can just enter in third party when somebody goes down. Now, unfortunately, I hear this Octane at the last second, as you can see in my face cam. I couldn't believe how late I heard the Octane. And I actually ended up getting shot in the back by the team in the choke point. They focused me before they shot this other team on high ground. And I end up taking damage from both teams and going down. And I wanted to show 2 games that weren't necessarily wins because I think it shows it's okay to make mistakes. It's going to happen as a solo. Sometimes it's out of your control. I hope there was a ton of things you guys are going to take away from this video. And let me know in the comments how they go in your next play session. As always, thank you so much for the love and support. Hope you guys have an amazing rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.